Hello and welcome to the newest episode of Hammer of Truth. I am Mike.
And I am Miriam. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, today we are going to be talking. It's been a busy week, month, however you want to look at it in the United States and the world. We've got some pretty crazy things that to talk about. We're going to talk about the special election that happened in Alabama. We're going to talk about RFK Jr. because I felt the need to talk about him. He just picked his vice presidential candidate. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Obviously, some things happened recently in Israel that we're going to talk about. And so it has been a nuts day. The first topic for the day, we're going to talk about a special election happened on March 27th. In Alabama's 10th district. It was to replace Republican David Cole, who was forced out due to pleading guilty to voter fraud. We're just going to let that sink in for a little bit. So this special election was between Democrat Marilyn Lands, who actually ran against David Cole 2 years ago and lost, but he's going up against Teddy Powell. So Land's campaign was focused on women's rights, specifically abortion rights. Alabama, if you don't know, has a near total abortion ban without exceptions. It's as close to a full ban as you can possibly get. And Alabama has been in the news recently with when the Alabama Supreme Court made the, in my opinion, amazingly misguided decision to that fertilized in vitro eggs were people. And due to that, basically every IVF clinic shut down. The Attorney General in Alabama said that they wouldn't go against IVF clinics, and I think their legislature passed something to protect it in some way, but no one believes it. Anyways, and then Teddy Powell ran on infrastructure, education, economic development. Now, the thing to understand is in 2022, when Land ran, and then in 2020, if you're talking about just Republicans, when it was Biden and Trump, the GOP had a +7. So with Land, it was a +7, lost by 7 percentage points. Biden lost that district in Alabama by 10 percentage points. Land won 62% to 38%. It was an over 20-point swing in a very red section of Alabama.
I think it's pretty indicative of what we can expect to see in the presidential election.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at the ads going on right now from Biden, he's definitely going all in on that one. I mean, he's doing other ones too, but he's definitely, women's rights is definitely at least at this moment a large part of his advertising budget.
Which frustrates me for a number of reasons.
Understandable. Yeah. But also the one thing I will point out to you and everyone else is he can't and won't advertise everything right off the bat. He's starting somewhere, and I guarantee it'll be a different argument in a few months, and it will maybe switch back. They're not going to throw everything out at once.
No, I think that's fair, but I think expecting our president to have stood up for our rights as the states were stripping them away is a fair ask. I mean, he was largely silent while that was happening. And, and I know there is some amount of allowing states to do what it is that they do because they have their own government, their own system, and their own way of establishing laws. But when they were stepping on our human rights, but very few words were said. That's kind of a problem.
But that's the Supreme Court's fault, not Biden's fault.
Right. But wouldn't you want the person that's elected us to stand up and say, hey, you guys should not be taking away the rights of the women in this country? I mean, not until now. Now he's using it as a voting tool. Now he's pushing it as part of his campaign. That's what feels manipulative to me.
I mean, I can't argue it because I'll admit I wasn't sitting there like focusing on everything Biden said at that point when Roe v. Wade got overturned. And I guess I can understand the manipulation, but also it's a presidential election, and that's what everyone, I mean, that's literally what everyone's going to do is pick whatever they're running on. That's what they're going to focus on. And it is manipulative, and that's called an election.
But it's an election about my body. It's an election about your daughter's uterus and my daughter, Yeah.
Yep.
So but my ex-husband's wife and I were just talking about this, and that's a weird statement I just made. My husband's ex-wife and I were just talking about this morning. Is that we could go to a gas station, we could be raped, we could get pregnant, and we would be forced to carry that baby to term. That is the reality that we were living in. Mm-hmm. And our president didn't say a word, or not many words, not as many words as I would have liked for him to have said regarding that.
Yeah.
So, that's it. Like, I'm all for women's rights. Don't get me wrong.
No. I understand, and I do get it. I just he's also a politician, and let's be fair. How many politicians, especially in the last 10 years, have we ever truly said they did it just right all the time? I mean, this feels like pretty much the norm right now. But
that being said, Alabama does point to a serious threat, like a serious direction our country is taking. We are starting to see women's rights play the role that we expected them to play in this upcoming election, and on the local levels as much as the national levels.
Florida is going to have abortion rights on the ballot this year, and another state, I think it's Arizona, is going to have it on the ballot. And they said they only needed like 100,000 like signatures or something like that to get it on, but they said they've gotten over 500,000 so far to get it on the ballot. So
that's good.
It's
fascinating because we said this was going to happen across the board, right? The very moment they overturned Roe, we were like, watch it. They're coming after IVF. They're coming after birth control. They've come after IVF, and now we're starting to see the crazies talk about birth control.
Well, they did come out.
Did you see the video? I don't remember who it was. He said it caused mental health problems. Birth control caused mental health problems.
Oh, yeah. Kurt, whatever.
Yes.
Something Kirk, whatever his name is. I can't remember his name because I hate the man so much.
Yes,
Charlie Kirk. Yeah. Charlie Kirk. That's it. Yes, that it causes. Charlie Kirk in a video said that your daughter shouldn't be on birth control because it causes mental issues. Yeah.
So they're largely setting up the steps. I mean, and we knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time.
I mean, arguably they already started that process. The Texas, because it always seems to start in Texas. That they had an argument it went through Texas and went to the Supreme Court of Title 10, which gives, I think it's Title 10, that gives women access, that gives girls access to contraceptives. And some dad in Texas, like his daughters weren't even trying to get it in the first place, but just like, I'm raising my kids under abstinence, and I don't think it should even be available to them in the first place.
Blows my mind. First off, parents, that role, like just the full blown, it doesn't work. Like in my experience growing up, not that I'm saying kids go out and do all sorts of things.
No,
that's not my goal. But my parents raised me in this, totally unabashed. Sex was a thing that humans experienced, and I won't go into detail, but it was just a human thing. So by the time everybody was like, oh, I'm like, this does not, like they took that kind of that questionability out of it. So for me, it was more about love and feelings, and that's how I was raised. But it also was, you're human and it's going to happen. So let's prepare you for that in the best possible way.
It's a mentality. So. It's a mentality that specifically conservative evangelicals, or I'd even say conservative Christians as a whole, have this. There's a general idea of they don't want laws made to take away their freedoms unless it's something they're against. And then it's let's make a law for a problem that doesn't even exist. Or I should say a problem that you can't, that has never been able to be controlled in the first place. For how many centuries have conservatives tried to regulate those kind of things? I mean, it didn't work with alcohol, and they friggin' had an amendment about it, and they had to overturn it. How many years later? Not many years later, because they couldn't stop.
Look at marijuana. Yeah, same thing, marijuana. Yeah.
So it's this idea that laws can help regulate those kind of things, when in the end, if they really,
it's Hester Prynne nonsense. It feels like Hester Prynne. It really does. Do you remember True Love Waits from when we were kids? Like this would have been.
I think so. It sounds familiar, but
it was like a conservative evangelical play that. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Jewish, but my father highly encouraged me to kind of explore other religions before I really dedicated myself to Judaism. So I spent time in Christian churches and Baptist church, just across the board. And my best friend, and I hated my home environment so much that on Wednesday night, she would go to youth group and she would drag me with her. But they did a program called True Love Waits, and it was about dedicating yourself to God and making a promise not to have premarital sex. The play gave a ring to the girl who would do a ceremony at the end with her father where she pledged her abstinence, and then her dad would put the ring on her. I mean, can we talk about the levels?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
but yes,
that has been going on for a long time, that kind of stuff, big time. And honestly, it rarely works. So
no.
I mean, it probably works for a little while, but in the end, whether someone is abstinent, whether someone doesn't end up doing drugs, whether someone drinks alcohol, whatever, if the kid wants to do it, they're going to find a way to do it.
Yeah.
And
life finds a way.
and honestly, I have found, at least in my own life with my child, that the harder you just put your foot down and push against, the more likely they are to go the opposite way.
Absolutely.
So, it shouldn't surprise me that we have gotten to where we are. So in the whole end,
idea that they're again moving to our laws to try and correct a evangelical like a viewpoint and behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and you're starting to see the repercussions of that play out in states like Alabama, where they have reversed IVF laws. And now women and men are like, oh, shit, all of the things that they said would happen are now happening. Our tinfoil hats don't look so tinfoil anymore. And it's almost like you're seeing even the most conservatives of conservatives wake up and realize what they've done to themselves.
Yeah, I made a video, not about this specific thing, but regarding women's rights. And I had many, many people that were like, I've been a Republican my entire life, but I'm going to be voting Democrat for my daughter's sake. There's always this issue that, these polls come up and say, oh, blah, 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 this person's winning, this other person's winning, blah, blah, blah. After 7 months of seeing the insanity of what the GOP are trying to do, because, we talked about, it being on the ballot in Florida, because of Florida's Supreme Court, basically the 6-week ban is about to go into place for them. It was stayed while it went to the Supreme Court, but now it's going to be enacted. And I think you're going to see, after 7 more months of this, you're going to see a lot of people that just realize that this is not good.
But in talking about the presidential election, we've got RFK making waves.
Yeah,
I know you're excited to talk about this.
So I've been talking about RFK in some way, shape, or form for over a year now. For those of you, I mean, if anyone doesn't know who RFK Jr. is, we'll do a quick thing. RFK Jr. is the nephew of former President JFK, and son of Bobby Kennedy, who was assassinated while running for president. He's a lawyer and has made his name taking, as he puts it, taking on the pharmaceutical industry.
He is as closest to American royalty as you can get.
Correct.
Yes.
He started running as a Democrat, and probably in the last, 3 or 4 months, maybe a little bit longer, changed over to independent because he realized he wasn't going to get the nomination. I have a lot of issues with RFK. He is a well-known vaccine conspiracy theorist, and in my mind, only called himself a Democrat because his uncle and dad called themselves Democrats. If you look at the stuff, and I'm gonna go through, I have a whole list of things that he has said, and there's more that he has said, but this is the list of some of the worst ones that I have seen. And he is, in my mind, based on the things that I will be reading, he definitely he feels like a different form of MAGA. He's not MAGA, but in terms of how he looks at a lot of things, he feels like he's in that same boat. So let's so as we already said, he started running as a Democrat, and then when he realized he wasn't going to win, he decided to go independent, which that's a different issue. But since then, there a deluge of speaking gaffes and conspiracy theories have come out. So he said that the coronavirus was genetically engineered. That one's been out for a while.
Yeah.
But not only did he say that, he was caught on camera saying COVID is targeted to Caucasians and Black people, going even further to say that Chinese and Ashkenazi Jews are the most immune.
I mean, that's good news for me, I guess.
I guess. But he has said that vaccines cause autism. He told Sean...
Which has been disproven now, time and time again.
Okay. He's told Sean Hannity that he believes the CIA were involved in the assassination of his uncle. Which, again, that's a long-term... Regardless of whether you believe it or not, it's just another thing that's just like, come on. In another interview for a podcast, he was unwilling to say that Al-Qaeda was responsible for 9/11. He says chemicals in our water are making people trans. Guns are not killing people. Antidepressants and video games are. Claimed that Biden is a greater threat to democracy than Trump is. And again, I know your issues. I know your issues with Biden.
They're at the same level for me, right? Like, and maybe Biden's a little bit less worse than Trump, but I wouldn't say he is worse for us than Trump by any means. That's unfair.
He was going to be he was a signed on speaker for the Moms of Liberty conference in 2023 and pulled out one day before, claiming that there was a schedule conflict. But we all know that everyone was flipping out about him doing it. So he's like, okay, I'll pull out. And this was when he was still running as a Democrat. Like, he wasn't an independent at that point. Just recently, in a fundraising email, his campaign called the January 6th rioters activists who had been stripped of their constitutional liberties.
Oh my God.
And after obvious backlash, his campaign said that the statement was an error. But this is also...
Do you think that's an attempt, though? Like, we're talking about how Biden, and like, I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a moment here. Do you think that is an attempt in the way that Biden is using women's rights as a platform? Do you think that that is an attempt to sway those individuals from Trump?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would not surprise me if RFK is saying and doing these things in order to try and pull people from both sides. I think he is saying and doing things on both sides to try and get people that are feeling disenfranchised. I think he's saying things. I think he's doing anti-establishment rhetoric to try and get leftists that don't like Biden. And I think he's doing conspiracy theories about vaccines and things like that in order to get MAGAs that are waving on Trump. I definitely think he's doing that. Would not surprise me. His entire...
Where's he standing on anti-abortion? Where is he standing on abortion rights?
So if I remember correctly, he has kind of been back and forth. The last I remember him saying was there was one period where he's like he wouldn't be for abortion, but in a more recent interview, he said that he would consider a national abortion ban, if I remember correctly.
He sounds like Vivek. He's like constantly changing his opinion.
Well, I mean, this has been so normal. In many interviews, especially in news agencies, they will point out something that he said, and he will say, "I didn't say that. I didn't say that," and then they'll show the video, and he'll still somehow try and deny it. Again, it's one of those things that drives me nuts about him. Is he just says whatever he can to get people to listen to him, and I mean, and I've made the argument that he is Trump 2.0 if you consider the 2016 Trump. People are calling him the anti-establishment person. You know, he's not a politician. He's saying things that, you know, he's saying all these good things that aren't politician-y. Could you argue that he is slightly better than Trump? I think a friggin' turtle walking down the street is better than Trump. So that's not really saying much. But in terms of how people are loving him because he supposedly isn't a politician, just irks me, because again, the fact that he wasn't a politician beforehand has already been shown to not guarantee that someone is good for our country. We've had that in 2016.
Well, and I see these points that you're making too are absolutely playing into the fear of the American people right now. Like his uncle's assassination. Like, I know you've seen my video of like, well, how he said that the CIA was closely tied to that. And in a way, I'm a historian. So as a historian, there has to be some level of tinfoil, because I look at the evidence and I have to make a factually based or the most educated guess that I can based upon the information I have in front of me.
Right.
And I now know that so much of what we've been given historically now is whitewash. We've been given bits of truth, but large bits of it have been left out.
Sure.
So I will say there is definitely suspicious documents, but that's all I will say. I would not say without a doubt that I believe the CIA was connected. I, without a doubt, believe there are questions involved, that there are questions the CIA could answer that they refuse to answer.
Sure.
That I will say. But I also know that you have a fear going on in the collective right now, especially considering what's going on with Israel, that the lobbyists are largely controlling our government, you know, so that anti-establishment is going to appeal to a lot of people. Not that I agree with him. He irks me in ways that I just can't pinpoint.
Yeah.
You know, but he is playing, like, I mean, what he's doing very smartly, because he is playing on the fears of the American collective. Yeah. And that's a big one, because they believe that JFK was the last president that was fighting on behalf of the American people, not a foreign interest.
Which is hilarious, because Jimmy Carter has been president since then. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jimmy Carter, furthermore, I mean, he warned us about all of this. And that's something else that we were largely, you know, for me, and Jimmy Carter, like, he was the good guy that went and did, the House builds and whatnot. I didn't really know a ton about his presidency.
Habitat for Humanity.
Yes. But it turns out, like, I mean, he was for peace in the Middle East. He was he was an amazing president.
Yeah.
And, it just calling for peace in the Middle East and questioning Israel's policies. He was labeled as an anti-Semite. And as a result, so much of his work is just not. Yeah. It's an amazing example of how our propaganda machine can do its job.
Yep. But to go back just quick on JFK. So he just picked a VP to run with him. This is where it just cracks me up. So, and before I name, again, a lot of people listening probably already know who it is, but we've got so many people in this country, specifically on the left, progressives and leftists, that are against billionaires, that are against the rich in our country. So who does RFK Jr. pick as his VP choice? Her name is Nicole Shanahan. She's a billionaire. Billionaire not by what she did, but by I guess inheritance is the best word. She is the former wife of Google co-founder Sergey Brin, and basically became a billionaire after they divorced. One of my issues with her.
He's smart. I mean, it's smart. Like
of course. And she is an elder millennial, I think, in her age. I'm not saying it's not a smart pick. It's a woman,
I hear you.
A
it's
smart
crazy.
woman. But the fact it's just crazy to me how we as Americans and human beings can be sitting here and raging at something, and then in a moment forget everything we were raging about because this person is saying the right things. And I've said this about this whole TikTok ban thing, and people that are sitting here defending TikTok with their life. I'm like, you understand TikTok is a multi-billion dollar company and cares about your money. No matter what they say on camera, they care about your money. They do not care about you personally, because how many times before this ban thing came up did we hear people saying TikTok doesn't care about us? We're just keep getting shadow banned and all this other stuff. All we're seeing is their shop stuff on it. But because the ban happens now, all of a sudden it's like, TikTok's amazing. Why would they do something like that to TikTok? It's like, guys, come on. You can not like it, but let's be realistic. And that's my issue with Nicole Shanahan, is not that there's anything particularly bad. Although I will say something in a second, it's that she's a billionaire. She may understand us common people a little bit more because she did not come from money like a lot of people do. She is still a billionaire. One of the things that I do strongly disagree with her views on is she has said out loud that she does not trust IVF and would rather, and wants to put her money in, and this I can't believe I'm saying this, but she wants to put her money into the research of sunlight as a increase in fertility. I want everyone to just sit on that for a second.
Okay, but there were stars that did this for a minute. They would go out and just hang out naked, and sun exposure therapy was what I remember thinking. Shailene Woodley, was that her name? She did that, and I was like,
and again, I have no issue. I have no issue with people trying things. If you're not going to sit here, you're not going to hear me argue, don't get more sunlight.
Yes.
And I'm not even going to sit here and argue, don't put money into research whether there could be some benefits to fertility from sunlight. I have no issue with that. But to sit here and say, I have issues with IVF, which has helped tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people have kids that couldn't before, and say we shouldn't be doing that, we should be putting more money into this, is just, come on.
These are the people running our government, though. I mean, I hear it, but at the same time, they're everywhere. They are absolutely everywhere within our government. This is not a surprise that this person has made it this far. It's shocking to me.
Well,
it shouldn't be shocking to me, but it is.
And let's be honest here. This person, I don't know how much you know about RFK's vice presidential pick. I don't know how much you know of the story, but RFK approached multiple people to try and get them to consider being a vice president. One of those including Tulsi Gabbard, who said no.
Oh, no.
Who said no.
I wouldn't touch it. I mean, no, that's like, no.
Yeah.
You would have lost so many progressives that way.
So not only it sounds like Tulsi Gabbard was closer to his first choice because he asked her first. It really feels to me like the reason they picked Nicole Shanahan is she's got money. She's the one who paid for his JFK carbon copy advertisement in the Super Bowl this year. She funded the whole thing.
Another millionaire's pocket. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
millionaire.
And that's the part that bugs me. And again, I understand. We've had this conversation. I've said it in other podcasts, and I will probably say it for the next 7 months. If you decide that you just can't bring yourself to vote for Biden, I'm not going to sit there and tell you you're wrong. You have the right as an American to vote. I just want you to vote. In the end, as long as everyone in this country votes, the more we can get to vote, the happier I will be. Obviously, I don't like RFK. I don't like Trump. I don't really love Biden either, but welcome to crazy town. That is the American, the American political system, especially.
Forget crazy town. We need to go into witch mode and just start manifesting a parting of the Red Sea. Like, come on.
So be it. But the point being, 2024 is definitely the year of the conspiracy theory. It is everything, anything that happens. We got to talk about it now. Yeah, you did it. We have to talk about it now. You open the door. It's so how everything can possibly be a conspiracy theory and it's not even just one side, both sides, even the middle sometimes, just everything. No one believes that anything that happens in this country or even this world now is just by accident. It's a deep state. It's a terrorist attack. It's something. I mean, I think
it's completely evident of the distrust that the collective has with the leaders in our society. We no longer trust our governments or those that were meant to represent us at face value. So because we've seen so much of their lies, we don't trust them. And we're going to talk about Kate Middleton now because you did this. Because Kate Middleton.
But even more. There's even another one that we'll talk about after Kate Middleton. But yes.
My mom, I am not they're called royal watchers, right? I am not a royal watcher. My mom was growing up. My middle name is Diane. It is after Princess Diana. So every once in a while, it's almost like a nostalgic pullback to my childhood. Like a big thing will happen and I get pulled in for a time being. So for those of you who don't know, the last time Kate Middleton was seen in person was at a Christmas party in December. She went into the hospital, which was supposed to be an abdominal surgery, but they believed it at the time to be non-cancerous. And after the surgery, she completely disappeared from the public eye for 3 months, right? It's been a while.
Two and a half months.
And I think and in this whole time, I had kind of been completely unaware of it. And they were kind of making hints. And at one point, I think right after Christmas, somebody was like, oh, she's been seen. And I checked it off my mental box. But sometime in March, they still hadn't seen her. And now you had the royals releasing photos and staging things. So it didn't, for me, I didn't question it until the royal palace started doing some crazy stuff. At that point, it's like, what are you guys? Even my husband's into this now, right? And he was like, I don't care about the royals, but they're hiding something.
Yeah.
They did it to themselves.
Yeah,
they did it to themselves.
And I get that. What went through my mind is just, why the hell do we care? I mean, in my head, I'm like, the reason the royal family put an AI generated picture or whatever it ended up being, of her with her family to try and show that everything was all right was because the conspiracy theory crazies were going ballistic about it. And I just wanted to be like, why do you care? Just let her be at the time that's necessary. You know they'll come out with something.
It's a family that's got a very, very bad past. I mean, and this is, again, you're looking at the traumatic history of what happened to Princess Diana bleed into what's going on right now. And I think it was more about not trusting this family because we've seen over the course of decades what they've done, and the concern that maybe something had physically happened to her.
Yeah.
You know, like, did he push her down the stairs? Did they, you know, just like...
Yeah. But in the end... This is the problem. Let's be fair. The royal family of Britain is glorified celebrities. That's all they are now. Absolutely. They don't actually run anything. All they are is celebrities. And I have personal issues with how we as a globe treat our celebrities, in the sense of we seem to care about every aspect of every ounce of everything in their life. And
yes,
you know, this was Kate Middleton, we found out later, has cancer. And the reason she didn't come out is her and her family were dealing with, you know, the mental strain of that reality. And so they put out this picture because they just wanted a moment of freaking peace. And obviously they failed, but it's just sad to me that we live in this world where something as horrible as cancer, which already causes so much stress, ends up getting more stress because people can't just sit back and live their life. They have to care about what this one person is doing that has no authority or power over anybody or anything.
I've said often, like, the Royals are the longest running reality show ever.
Yeah.
Like, they've been around since the Middle Ages. But I also think, you know, they have, and not that I don't disagree, because they, you know, they absolutely, during this, my father died of cancer. I know what chemotherapy can do. I know how horrific this disease can be. And I know even if it's just preventative chemotherapy, the next few months of her life will be incredibly hard. She won't feel well. I mean, so many, I would absolutely be the same way that she is right now. But she has, you know, she married into an institution that is public. They make their living being public. This is how, and they are supported by the public, you know, for living in the public eye. So I think in the way it's again, it was such a hard line to draw, because it's like, you want to be supported and live in the public eye until it's inconvenient for you, which again, I get, cancer sucks. It blows. I wouldn't want to be in the public eye either. It's just this fine line that they're walking between asking for privacy, and they make their living, their very lavish living, off of living from the public eye.
Okay. And I guess my one pushback on that would be, I think the royal family has shown kind of a mini biome of the issues that our country and our globe have with how we interact, how we treat, how celebrities are treated now. And part of the problem is things like social media, which, you know, you could have a celebrity, but, you know, back in the day, but it wasn't like everywhere. I mean, there's a reason that Harry and Meghan are basically no longer part of the royal family, because they could not take that level of pressure anymore. And from my understanding, William and Kate don't really love it either, but William feels that it's his responsibility because he is next in line. He just has no choice. And it's like, I have issues with this celebrity infatuation that we as a country have garnered. We as a world has garnered. I understand, you know, these people make a lot of money from us. So this idea potentially that gives us some right, but I also don't agree with that it gives us any right, because William didn't ask to be born a royal. He's doing it because he feels he has to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's true. Like if you, again, I know so much. I want to reiterate, I'm not a royal watcher, but my mom was. And so I know more of this than I should. But growing up, he very much hated being in the public eye. He was awkward. He wanted nothing to do with it. You know, it was said he was very much like his mom in that way.
Yeah.
So, you know, him kind of coming into this role, he was very hesitant. But again, like you said, it spoke to his duty.
Yeah.
We wanted to touch on one more thing, and we are, as we always do, going to run out of time unless we touch on this. So Israel and aid. So Biden actually made a step in the positive as far as kind of going a little bit more toe-to-toe with Netanyahu. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So again, this is probably not new news to anybody, but how long ago was it? A week or two ago?
I was on vacation.
So it's only been about a week. Three aid trucks from the World
Food Kitchen.
There you go. So 3 vans from the World Food Kitchen, which are in Gaza, were basically were struck in succession by the IDF and the Israeli government.
Accident.
They've called it an accident. I actually just read today, and again, I'm not. We already know that we can trust the IDF as far as we could throw the IDF, which is not at all. So, but according to a report, they have fired or let go or whatever a couple people who they are putting the blame on for that. But anyway, so 7 people were unalived because of that attack. And there has been obvious major backlash. I mean, it's always been a dangerous place for journalists and aid workers, but this is the most blatant danger that any aid worker, except for hospital workers, have had to deal with since October 7th.
We're looking at, again, fascist levels of attacks on individuals that are supposed to be protected by agreed upon world laws. These aren't even like,
and again, everyone wishes that we would be getting to a point that we are at now 7 months ago. We're going to start on that. We're going to start with that basis. It seems like in a lot of people's mind, in the Biden administration especially, that this is starting to tip the scale to the point that it has been reported multiple times in multiple places that Biden is enraged by this.
It's about time. It is about time.
I mean,
and it should not. 100% of the people over there are now at starvation levels. They are suffering. And they're not even trying, they are actively, they can't even, they're supposed to be one of the most prepared militaries. They have our weapons, for God's sake. So they are one of the most elite militaries in this world right now. And they are making these quote unquote mistakes. Blow all the way off. I'm sorry. I don't buy it for a second. No.
No. Hey. You are right. You are correct. In a recent phone call between Biden and Netanyahu, it says that he made it clear that U.S. policy with respect to Gaza will be determined by our assessment of Israel's immediate action regarding implementation of a series of specific, concrete, and measurable steps to avoid civilian harm, humanitarian suffering, and safety of aid workers. And it didn't say it in the report that I'm reading, but I did also hear that a ceasefire is also considered a part of that. Again, I don't know how long. I don't know any of those details. Those aren't out, but this is definitely, we've seen this gradually over the last month and a half, because of the absolute, what I would say, idiocy of the Israeli government, but also the pressure of people in the United States. Anyone who says that The pressure is not doing anything. It is. I don't do what you do, Miriam, to the same level, but I do my best to push everyone that is to lift the voices of everyone that is working so hard on that is interacting with people, because you guys are doing amazing work, and the pressure is working. It's obviously working. And this one, I think you could argue that it wouldn't have it may not have happened unless something like this happened, but this was one of those situations where a lot of bad things could have happened if his eyes did not open because of something like this, because this was as blatant of a bad, especially if you hear the story. I mean, one van got hit, and they were getting people out of that and into another one and started to try and get away, and then that one got hit, and that it wasn't like they just hit an area. Like this was a successive thing, and it was
not sound like an accident.
No,
that doesn't sound like an accident.
Supposedly AI. Again, this is a report that I read, that AI is picking the targets for them. In the end, it doesn't change. It doesn't change their culpability for the problem. But if they are,
because at this point, there's so many mistakes, we stop using AI. So it's absolutely their fault at this point. Still, it's just their fault in a different kind of way.
Right.
They have a faulty system, and they're still using it.
Oh, absolutely.
They don't care.
I mean, let's be honest. And again, we're saying finally for Biden, but there has been some major push in Israel too for an early election, because not only people standing standing in front of Parliament or whatever calling for it, but I saw a report saying one of his cabinet, I think, or something like defense minister or something like that, was calling for an early election too. So,
well, I want to touch on something you actually said. You said that, because there was something that happened with Elise Myers on TikTok recently with the Operation Watermelon movement, where individuals say that, she was being bullied. Now, I was not a part of Operation Watermelon. I'm working with Salam and Solidarity, and I've been very wrapped up in that. But from what I could tell, they were just using her comment section, the Free Palestine. Now, I know there always are the outliers that were bullying her that totally were wrong. Yeah. And absolutely, if you're using the comment section to boost knowledge in a respectful way, and she had a problem with that, then yes, that's on her. That's not cool. Again, I don't know. But if she was just frustrated because she didn't want to be seen as a supporter of Palestine, that is an issue. But that being said, all people were calling us keyboard warriors. They, all of a sudden that bullying that they were saying had happened, they had turned around and started projecting onto us. But I just did an interview with she is working on a thesis concerning the work that individuals like us do on TikTok, especially within the Palestinian movement. She's in New Zealand. And one of the things that really struck out to me was that she said, do you guys realize the impact that you are making? Do you guys have any idea what you are doing? She said, this pressure is working. No matter what they tell you on a global scale, this pressure is working.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was amazing. Because again, I hope I'm just a sand. I want to be a sand in part of a mountain that makes a huge change.
Absolutely.
But you're right. It is working. And to keep that pressure on. But Biden has a chance here to really turn his campaign around. His actions will have to match his words, though. If he's going to go toe-to-toe with Netanyahu, he's going to have to do it. My one thing, and we talked about it in the last episode that went live from the State of the Union. I asked a question to you then, and I still kind of ask the question now because I think it's something that is worth everyone thinking about. If he makes the change, and not only says the words, but starts backing them up, is your goal to change Biden's mind, or are you just going to say no, never Biden? And I have an issue with a no, never Biden if he changes
if his actions start following his words, and I only say that because I've already said, you vote your conscience. If you still can't, you still can't. But the only reason I have an issue with it is if you are like that, you also are making an assumption that people cannot change. You are making a statement that, I don't care if what he's doing now is showing he's different. I just can't trust him. I don't trust him. I won't trust him. And it's like, well, then none of us ever are going to be good enough in that case, because you are assuming what he was thinking at every single point from October 7th on, and we don't. We think we do. There's a lot of us that think we do, but in the end, we don't. What we say, though, is that his actions and his words need to start meeting up, and that I completely agree with. And if they don't, then again, I'm not going to sit here and say you have to do this for blank reason. Even if I would do it for blank reason, you have to vote your conscience. In the end, I'm not gonna argue it. If he's making the change, like, we want everyone to change. We want everyone to we want everyone to think like we think. But their experiences, their life, whatever, got them to where they are. And sometimes it takes a little longer to make the change that we want. Are we going to hold them responsible and say, I don't care? He's not perfect. None of us are perfect.
Yeah.
So
I guess what I'm looking at right now in this reality and in today's world is, you and I talked about this a great deal when I started pushing back on Biden, because we talked about how this was maybe a dangerous time to push back on his rhetoric. And, I said to you, this is our job as the American people, is to hold our president accountable. This is the only thing that we can do. And I'm using my word and my voice and my vote now to do that. But I also have no idea what I was going to do in the polls come November. I was totally and remain open to him showing me that he has the possibility of being the president that I want him to be.
Yeah.
But that means standing up to Netanyahu. That means, because you're right, I don't know. I know that they are, an ally. I know there are certain steps we have to go through before we can stand against an ally. But what I want to see is that we're taking those actions. And I feel like we were there months ago, but if he just can start acknowledging that and actually move forward, then he will start. And again, I still don't know where I will be in November, but he will make me far more likely to be on his side doing that than he is with his actions in the past few months.
And in the end, no one knows what the next 7 months are going to hold. And, what we will do here on Hammer of Truth is try and keep the conversations going. And I know Miriam and I will do our best to let you know our thoughts on every topic. And as we learn, as we grow, as we discuss, we'll let you know why we're thinking the way we're thinking and where we're going. And hopefully we'll help you, the listener, make your own decisions on what you feel is best for you, your family, and this country. Well, thank you everybody for spending this time with us. I'm not sure I thought that this conversation was going to end up going exactly how it went, but this was a good conversation nonetheless. And we thank you everyone for supporting us. If you don't already, please, if you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify, please listen to this 100 times so it can push it, whatever. Thank you so much for everyone already for all the support that you've given us. We really do appreciate it, and we look forward to the weeks and months to come. Thank you for spending time listening to Hammer of Truth. Bye, guys.
Bye.